All right, so to make this tasty, easy bread, you're going to need 3 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast, and 1.5 cups of lukewarm water. That's right. To make this bread, it's so easy that anybody can make this bread. I'm telling you, if you are scared of baking or even baking bread, this is something that is perfect for you. This will have your sandwich singing. That's right. This makes an awesome sandwich. It is so easy. Man, I wish you could understand how easy this is. But if you make it, then you'll know how easy this is. All right, so now that I've given you the measurements, let's make some bread. All right, so I want my water to be between 90 and 95 degrees, and this is sitting at about 92 degrees, and we're going to be adding the active dry yeast to this. That's right, the active dry yeast, so that way it can get nice and wet with the water and they can get married and then they could bloom. And this is called blooming, just in case you didn't know. That's why I said the word bloom. That's right. So we're going to let the yeast bloom in the water, and it's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. So just mix it in really, really good and make sure you introduce the water to the yeast in a nice way without stirring it too hard. And then just be patient and wait about 10 to 15 minutes. That's right. And like me, I'm waiting patiently. Well, not really patiently. All right, so now we're going to take the flour, and this is 3 cups of flour, and I'm going to sift my flour because I'm a sifting kind of guy. I like to sift a lot, but you don't have to sift your flour. I just don't want any lumps to be in my flour. So here I am sifting and tapping this lovely container, and I'm adding some salt. And the salt is going to be 2 teaspoons of salt. And if you're a gram person that likes to weigh stuff by grams, down below, I'll tell you the grams. So that way you can be happy too. All right, so we're going to mix that salt in really nice so that way the salt and the flour can get married and have salty flour babies. You know what I mean, but just mix it in pretty good. All right, so now that that's mixed in and the 10 minutes have gone by and the yeast have bloomed and the flour has married the salt, now we're going to marry them all together so they can have a big, happy family. That's right. And this family is going to make something called dough. All right, so you're going to introduce the flour to the yeast water really, really nice and gently, and you're going to mix it in. But I'm not going to bore you with the long version of this. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit until the dough is nicely mixed in. All right, so now that the dough is mixed in, we're going to cover it up with a moist, wet towel, not really wet, but moist, and let it sit for 2 hours. That's right. And after those 2 hours, we're going to take that beautiful blue towel off, that lid off, and this is how your dough is going to look. Well, I'll show you that in a second, but I need to put some flour down on here so that way this moist, sticky dough doesn't stick to everything because this dough is sticky. All right, so now that I'm taking the dough out, well, I'm about to take the dough out after I sprinkle some flour on top because it's sticky. Did I tell you it's sticky? That's right. All right, so I'm going to maneuver it a little bit, take my spatula, shift it around, and then shake this bowl, and then the dough is just going to fall out just like that onto my lovely cutting board with flour. And then I'm going to take some more flour and I'm going to put it right on top of the wet dough. Now, this dough is a very, very, very flexible dough. You can shape it, you can pull it, you can tug on it, you can roll it, you can knead it if you want. And this really is a no knead dough. Not N-E-E-D, but K-N-E-A-D. It's a no knead dough. You really don't have to knead it. You really don't have to go all crazy and shape it. So don't be intimidated about shaping this dough because it's pretty much so simple and so easy that you can really just make a ball out of it and call it a day. All right, so for me, I'm tugging and I'm pulling and I'm right now flipping. And then I'm just going to roll it up to a nice ball and then I'm going to tuck. Now, you do not have to do this. You don't have to do what I'm doing on this part of the video. I just like to play with dough. I'm that type of guy. You know, if Your kids like slime, then why can't adults have dough? And so that's what I'm doing. I'm rolling it, making sure that flour is on it, pulling the edges around. And then after that, I'm just going to kind of just tuck it and spin it, until I get a nice shape. All right, so I'm going to put a towel over this and I'm going to let it sit for 30 minutes. But during those 30 minutes, preheat your oven to 450 degrees with your cast iron in it and the lid on the cast iron while your dough is resting for that 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes, take the pot out and then put the dough inside of it and put the lid back on. And then you're going to put this baby in the oven for 35 minutes. That's right. But be careful because this pot is going to be hot, or your pot is going to be hot. All right, so I put the lid back on and it's time to put it in the oven. And then after the 35 minutes, it's time to open the oven and take the lid off. So right now, this has been in the oven for 35 minutes. I've taken the lid off and I'm putting it back in for 10 more minutes. And after those 10 minutes are done, this is what you have. Look at it. This is a beautiful bread. And I'm telling you, when you toast this bread with some butter on it, it is amazing. And then when you make a sandwich like what we're going to do today, it's going to be amazing. Look at this bread. It's so easy and yet so tasty. That's right. You can make it for your friends and your family and your loved ones and for yourself. Why not? Hey, so here's the bread. Let's make a sandwich. Well, after I have a little bite of it. All right, now we can make a sandwich.